Morning, how are you?
I'm Nicole.
Terrific. Thank you. Do I say pagi for the
Selamat.
salamat pagi?
Selamat.
Salamat pagi. Salamat pagi. Good, I got that right. Are we all well? Yes. Did we have a good sleep?
Yes.
Kind of. Are we ready for some creativity this morning? Good, good. We have a creative mindset, that's great. Have a look at the agenda for today. We'll be starting with Xd, and hopefully some of you have been able to download it. I understand that not all your operating systems will manage Xd, but hopefully you have. So hands up, who has been able to download Adobe Xd? Hands up. Great, good. Those people who haven't been able to download Xd, you have two choices. One is just to watch what I'm doing on the screen, or come and sit with someone who's got it so you can work with them as well. So that's up to you to manage, but we're going to start with Adobe Xd this morning. Phone. Just to go through some of the other resources on this website, obviously yesterday a whole range, just read Adobe Spark, and there are resources here for you to explore, share Adobe Spark. We had a look at ADC. And character animator. Didn't go into Premiere Pro because that's not as relevant for everybody. But for those of you who want to explore Premiere Pro or go to that next level above Premiere Rush, this is a wonderful tool and there's lots of resources there for you. What I've got here is advice for making a quality video story. And video is now considered literacy. Fortunately, thanks to YouTube, video is now a literacy. It's almost as important to be able to make a quality video as it is to be able to read and write. And that's just the way the world has changed so much in the last few years. And it's really because of YouTube. They have totally changed. You ask any student, how did they learn today? They'll say, oh, YouTube. I speak to students all over the world, and I ask them often, I say, do you learn more from school or do you learn more from YouTube? YouTube. Every time. It's the way young people get their information. So we as educators need to tap into that in two ways. One is we need to either develop communication skills to be able to put things on YouTube or videos. It doesn't have to be YouTube, but just using video as a way to communicate. And the other thing is we need to encourage our students to develop their video communication, because it's not going to be any different. It's going to actually get more towards the video side than it is towards the traditional literacies. And we need to prepare our students for that future world. Even if it's not as important for us, it is for them. What I've got here is some advice for quality video. Every time you structure your, follow the. Does anyone know what it's now a 3.2 rule. Xd research on this. The average length of an edit in film and television is 3.2 seconds. Edit only 3.2 seconds or 7 seconds. Attention span. Our attention is about to lose interest in what's on the screen. Now that's not necessarily a good thing, it's just a reality. So if you want to capture your audience, you need to change the images constantly. The audio can stay, talk for longer than 7 seconds, that's fine, but you need to change the visuals to keep of your audience. When it comes to audio, audio is worth 60% of your video. If you've got bad audio, people are not going to want to watch your video. Notice that we're going live at the moment, are we? Is it streaming? Microphone. A large handspan away, probably about that distance. So you see the wave of the, like that, you see a peak in the wave. So you've got a peak this or Pro, and you have perfect sync. Those little things make a big and help you to try to yourself to use original music or royalty-free music. One of the great things about working in a university or in a secondary school is that you have a music department usually. You have musicians on campus. You have musicians who want to share their music. This gives them an opportunity to do that. So go out to your music school and say, do you have any musicians who do recording? To share their music for my videos. It doesn't have to be music with vocals, it could just be instrumental music. Other than that, there's so many sources of royalty-free music. My favorite one is called bensound.com. bensound.com, it's fantastic. A lot of it's free. I've got through all the free stuff and now I'm buying music from bensound.com for my videos. There are other sources too, but I think bensound, B-E-N, sound.com is a really good one. There it is there, I've just recommended it, bensound.com. If you're working with Premiere Rush or Premiere Pro, use more than one camera in filming so that you have different angles and different frames to edit. The problem that we've got is one single shot all the time. But if we were doing a post-production, if we weren't going live, it'd be a second shot coming in from the side. And then I cut between the two and use the 7 seconds rule. So I've got 7 seconds on there to here. About my picture of the second rule, just to keep the interest of your audience going. Who knows the rule of thirds? Designers in the room know the rule of thirds. You rarely ever put the most important part of your frame in the middle of the frame. Always slightly to the left, slightly to the right. Divide your frame up into thirds. Those intersecting points where you've divided it up, they've got a special name. Microsoft named some software after those intersecting points. Any ideas? They're not called Word. They're not called Excel. They're called PowerPoints. So the whole idea behind Microsoft PowerPoint is to get the most important part of your slide into one of those intersecting points. And that's more visually appealing. That's using the rule of thirds. Just like when you're filming, try to follow the rule of thirds. This one's important. I don't know, I think it was Akram. Where's Akram? Akram was, I think it was you yesterday when we had you're doing a selfie. The instantly, there was all this headroom straight away, and I asked you to tilt the iPad, and then you brought it back up again. I said, no, bring it down. We don't realise how important it is to have the top of the head as the top of the frame. And that just makes it look so much better. Generally, it's all about filling the frame. Fill the frame, and you'll have a much better quality frame. If I'm filming this lady here, if I've just got her in the bottom corner, all this wasted space, that doesn't look good. If I just come a little bit closer, fill the frame, it adds to the quality. When it comes to lighting, if I was filming in this room, if I had this, so I'll just open this up here, it'd be terrible to point the camera that way. Yeah, because you underexpose whoever you're filming. They become very dark, very shadowed. So I just simply ask that person to go and stand here and film this way. Much better light. But better still, I would ask them to stand here and I'd film them this way so the light's coming in from the side. And this creates an illusion of depth. I don't know if you can see, just the natural light coming in here is a really good light. And I should be lit a little bit more here than on this side. And that creates an illusion of depth. Now for us it's obvious to see because you're all looking three-dimensionally at me. But on a video it's a two-dimension. We want to give the illusion of depth. That's why lighting always comes in from the side rather than directly from the front. Try to use a tripod or a gimbal wherever possible. Great that you've got a tripod. It'd be annoying just to hold it, wouldn't it, all day? And avoid zooming and panning. I mean, you have to sometimes, but while you're actually recording, don't zoom and pan, don't move the camera much and don't zoom in and out. Use the edits to tell the story rather than using the camera. That's why the 7-second rule is helpful too, because some of them will be a slightly wider shot than others. That adds to the interest. But the more that you move the camera and zoom in and out, the more you can put off your audience, especially if it's on a big screen. If you are filming interviews or talent, make sure they're labelled with lower third text. And always allow extra time if you're going to be exporting. So there's just some extra sort of tips and tricks for you when it comes to video. All right, Adobe Xd. I think I've got a video to play here. Let's see if this works. Let's check our audio. This gives you an idea of what happens with XD and how it works. I think we're actually hearing two things there, sorry about that. Let's try that a third time. I was talking to someone from the XD team earlier this year and they said, do you know what, Tim, in 10 years' time, people will be talking about Adobe XD as they talk about Adobe Photoshop. I thought that is a big call. That's huge. But the XD team is now, I think, 300 people. It's one of our biggest teams, biggest product teams out of all of our products because they're just making this an incredible app. So if you've got XD, go ahead and open it now. And I want you to work with me. There's actually a built-in tutorial that comes with XD, and we're actually going to work through that tutorial together. The whole idea behind XD is to help you design, prototype, and share. And we could be designing an iPhone app or an Android mobile app. We could be designing an iPad app or an Android tablet or a Surface Pro 3 or a Surface Pro 4 app. We could be designing a web page or a website that's on various dimensions. Or we could go ahead and customize whatever it is we want to design. Maybe something for the watch, something really small. So it's all about the design process. And then once we've done our design, we can prototype, or we can actually prototype while we're designing, and then we can share. And we can share it with the person who we're making it for, so they can actually get a working prototype on their phone, and they can make changes, and those changes can be made really quickly before we eventually give it to a developer to actually build. And that's the whole idea behind Adobe Xd. Let's go into the tutorial. So I'm going to click Begin Tutorial. And this is our environment. We have some simple tools on the left here and some simple tools on the top. And those tools are going to stay quite simple so that most of our work, most of our environment is in our plan. In this tutorial, we already have some artboards that are created as well as some instructions. And the way we can zoom in and out is on my trackpad, I can pinch in and out. Or as it says here, let's have a look, keyboard shortcuts. Zoom in with a 2-finger pinch on your trackpad, or the command plus or minus, or it might be the control plus or minus. For me, it's the command plus or minus, and that's how I can zoom in and out. And there's some other shortcuts here which you might remember, but it doesn't matter because they're all over here. The shortcut to the select tool is a V. Shortcut to the text tool is a T. Rectangle tool, R, ellipse, E, L, line, P, pen, artboard, A. So all those tools can be accessed through the toolbar or through those shortcuts. Now, I noticed there was an issue with this download. I'm just going to try it again in case it was a proxy issue. Let's see if it's working this time. It doesn't matter if we can't get the assets on, so we can work without them. Oh, it is working now, that's good. All right, if you've got it, go ahead and grab the assets that are available here. That will help enhance this tutorial. So that link there, www.adobe.com/go/xd tutorial images, that will take you to a zip file which will go in your downloads. And from that zip file, it will provide you with some basic images that we can work with for this tutorial. If it doesn't work, because it didn't work for me the other day, so if it doesn't work for you, don't worry. But it would be helpful if you had some images, any images at all, that we can add to our design. There's also a video, if you're doing this on your own another time, there's a nice little video tutorial that you can access as well through that link. But we won't do that today. All right, step 1. Make an artboard. This will become your app screen. Select the Artboard Tool. So there's the Artboard Tool. What was the shortcut for the Artboard Tool? A for Artboard. So if I do an A, it activates that particular tool. This will become the upper left panel. Click inside the grey box to the right. So here's my grey box to the right. And if I click inside that, instantly I've created an artboard. If I didn't have a grey box, if I was going from scratch, I could just click anywhere and you can see how the artboards are being created. This one's already been preset to be for an iPhone. It's going to undo those extra artboards and come back to the original one here. So this is designed for an iPhone X or XS. Now switch to the selection tool and drag the blue logo, this one here, we're going to drag it onto the artboard. Just click and drag so we can see how simple that works. This logo is what sort of format? Can you tell? It's a vector diagram, obviously made with something like Illustrator, because of all the different elements that are there. And the great thing about Xd is that it helps you, you can work with rasters, JPEGs, you can work with vectors, and you can play out. The great thing about vectors, of course, is we can go and scale each individual element and scale it as big as a building if we wanted to, and we're not going to lose any quality. That's why a lot of designers love working with vectors. Next instruction, it says double-click the artboard, use the fill tool on the right panel to set a background color. Fill tool looks like this. I'm going to double-click the artboard, and that highlights the whole artboard. And on my right-hand side now, I've got an appearance. I've got a button here called Fill. Uh-oh. I'm going to turn over that problem again. See if we can carry on. So just going to disconnect from the projector for a second. Sorry, folks. Okay. Oh, no, it's gone back again. Ah, that's annoying. There we go. All right, so we're double-clicking the artboard, and then we're choosing a fill color. I'm thinking something quite light, because we've got a reasonably dark logo there. I'm happy with that. So on this tutorial, we actually now have the artboard that we created. We have a second artboard here called Home, and then some more instructions. Next instruction. Drag and drop TALIN from the folder you downloaded, Talon. So it's going to jump into my folder that I downloaded, and there's an image there called Talon, must be his name. I'm literally going to drag and drop. Where am I going to do that? Drag and drop Talon from the folder you downloaded earlier into the grey circle beneath your latest trip. There it is. So in the circle just there, this image is literally going to be dropped and dragged into there. Let's try that again. And because there's already a frame in there, you can see how the picture just goes inside the frame. You've got a bit of flexibility with that frame too. You can change the look and feel of it. If you double click inside the picture, you can then remask it so that you get the exact look and feel that you want. So you can see it's a relatively simple process to do the design process here with Adobe Xd. Okay, I'm happy with that. All right, let's go to the next step. Step 3. Create prototype transitions. Select prototype in the top bar up the left. So up here next to the word design we've got prototype. So when you click on the prototype tool here, we're now in prototype mode. Select the rectangle in the latest adventures section at the bottom of the home artboard. All right. Select the rectangle, latest adventures, and drag the blue arrow to the Adventures artboard, which is this one here, which has already been pre-made for us. So I'm literally going to click, hold, and drag from there to there, and creating a wireframe. So now we know there's going to be interactivity between this box and the artboard. Because I've done some interactivity, it gives me a few options up here. In terms of activating that, I could do a tap or I could do a drag. It even now has a voice command option. So if you're working with Siri or Alexa or so on, so you can activate the whole interaction with your voice rather than using a tap drag. Or you can key gamepad. So if you're working with a, I'm not a gamer. Xbox, yeah. Xbox or what's the other big one? PlayStation, yeah. So you can choose whatever you want. But I'm just going to use a normal tap for this. We can actually choose a transition. Auto Animate actually does an automation. It creates a transition for you. We could do an overlay, a speech playback, a previous artboard, sort of fill the gap. I might go Auto Animate and see what happens. Destination adventure, that's good. He's out. Duration 0.3 seconds. I might increase that a little bit just to show that. Now the next step here is to preview prototype. Select preview, which is this button up here, and notice next to it there is a device preview. So if you did plug in your phone, I notice a couple of you have downloaded the Xd app on your phone. So this is where you could do the actual preview on your device if you wanted to plug it in and work with that. But I haven't got a device plugged in here, so I'm just going to click the desktop preview. And now with my desktop preview, I've got just what it would look like if it was a phone. And I've entered that with my full screen. I went view, enter full screen, so I can't see anything else but the phone. Now, theoretically, if I click that box, I should go to the next artboard. Let's see what happens. It didn't work. Okay, what have I done? Let's just double check my artboards. Maybe I didn't finish it off. No, it's definitely there. Oh no, it's that box there, my fault. That's one there. So let me open that in full screen again. To full screen. This is the box. Oh, notice that it turns into a hand, so I know there's going to be interactivity. 3, 2, 1, bang, there it is. So we've done our first bit of interactivity. But now I'm stuck there. There's nothing I can do to go back. But we've designed a little arrow here, just using some of the tools to create that little arrow. So I'm going to choose that arrow to be my back arrow. So I need to go back out of prototype mode. Let's find that arrow. There it is. So if I click that asset, because I'm still in prototype mode, and I'm going to click and drag a wireframe straight back to my home screen. So now when I preview, I should be able to go back. There we go. So I'm going to that artboard, and I'm going back to that artboard. All right, let's just pause there for a minute and see how we're going. Just going to walk up and down and see if anyone needs some help. How's it going? You all right?
Yeah.
Yeah, making sense. Cool. You guys all right? How's it going?
A little bit slow.
That's okay. Yeah, just begin tutorial and just go through the steps and you'll. Good. Oh, okay.
That's why I just watch.
Worries. Good to see you. Good. Are you feeling a bit today?
Yeah.
Good. Good to hear. Right. You got the back button working? On the little back button there. I see the little arrow. Click on that. No, just click the arrow one.
This one.
Yeah. And so that, just click and drag that back over there. And so now click that little back arrow because they're going backwards. Yeah.
You know, I want to like upload this out.
Into your machine, and then yeah, that well, I think there's Xd app. Cool.
How to code this only the UI.
Yeah.
How about the coding part?
Oh, this is not doesn't do coding. This is a design tool.
Only the design.
Design the prototype, sharing, and you share it with a coder. Now there are some third-party applications you can bring in to do the code. Coding's pretty bad, so you can't control the code. You use the third party, so it'll eventually become better. But it's much better if you know a coder. They'll be able to code it with the language that's going to be the best language to work with. So it's not a coding tool; it's a design tool.
So when the coder can code like.
Yeah, and they'll know exactly what you want because I have a fully functioning prototype.
Tim, I cannot. I already use Paper, but I cannot.
It's frozen, has it?
No, I can do it. This. Wait.
Okay.
But.
With two fingers, I guess you can pinch in and out. Don't just pinch. But hang on, selecting. No, don't click. Just pin. So don't push hard on it.
Then I have to use mouse.
To be easier. Or the mouse, I think you'd have full control. We just try just going very quickly. I'm moving us into there now. Softly moving in and moving out. Clicking on it, just moving up and down.
Okay. Anything. I don't.
It's all right. I'm just trying to find a nice picture of someone working with Xd. That was. Thank you.
Make this in programming.
No, it's coding
Just on
design.
for the count day, for example. You want to put the image sliders.
Oh, yeah, all that. Yeah, you code.
No, register. For example,
No.
the function for the
Login function, the
register.
function through this.
To make got some basic drawing tools here that you can work, or you can something in the Illustrator and put it in.
You want to
Make a phone?
Yeah. Is it?
Yeah, well, I suppose you could design a phone with the circle and the square. And
Login, we can
oh, form.
yes.
Yeah, look, I'm not sure. I think there are some third-party. I'll show you. If you click on that button down there, I think it's that one. Try on there. Plug here. Click on the plugins and do a search for form. If there is one, because there's lots of people making plugins for it, and there might be an interactive form one.
Using Xd, and then we need to
Publish. Is it published on APK or something?
Is it?
Is it published on the APK?
Look, you can share it with other people who have got XD, or just through a browser version, so people can see it prototyping on a browser. And that's a way of sharing it, but it's actually building the app. You need a developer to build the app. Okay, folks, a few people have been asking the same question, so let me just establish something. Remember, Adobe Xd is not a development tool. It's not actually coding while you're building. So it's not like Dreamweaver where you're coding in the back end while you're building. It's a design tool, a prototype tool, a sharing tool. You share it then once you've finished it with a coder, who then has a fully function, knows exactly where things are going to go. And that's the beauty of it, because the traditional approach has been to hand draw or to use other programs, and then the coder has to interpret the drawings or has to interpret what the designer wants, and often there's a mistake and they go back and forth, and that costs money and that's time. Whereas if you can get a fully functioned prototype, that saves a lot of time because the coder knows exactly what the designer wants. And that's the beauty of Adobe Xd. All right. Someone also asked about whether you can have an interactive form put into it and all sorts of things like that. Notice down the bottom left-hand corner, there's a little button here called plugins. We're finding that there's a lot of third-party companies who are building plugins for XD, and every few weeks a new one comes in and comes out. So that'll give you an idea whether you can do forms, interactive forms, and lots of different things. It's still very much in development with those plugins. But let's move on. Let's go and show you the feature. So we're up to feature 5, which is to make a list. Select design in the top bar, switch back to design mode. Select the rectangle under the Adventures post. So this one here. And then go and select this button called Repeat Grid, which is located up. Hang on, click on that. Yeah, Repeat Grid, which is this button just here. And when you click Repeat Grid, it allows you to make a copy of what you've just created by dragging down. And the more that you drag down, the more copies get created. So I'm going to create 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 copies of that text and image. Notice I could also go that way as well if I was working with a bigger screen, but I'll just stick with that because it's an iPhone. Drag the handle down until you have 4 items. Well, I've got 6. Adjust the pink space between items to change the padding. So if I grab that little thing there and make it a bit smaller, it adjusts the padding for all of your grids. Step 6, add multiple images at once. Select the other 4 images from the downloaded folder at the same time, drag them together onto the top image in the repeat grid. The grid images will update. All right, let's give it a go. So I'm going to find, sorry, it's got to disconnect again, sorry. So these are the other images here, mountain, camp, balloon and beach. I'm selecting all 4 of those images. And I'm going back to my repeat grid, which is here. Make it a bit bigger. Why is it doing that? And if I grab those 4 images and drag all 4 of them into that top image, and you can see now all of those images have been filled. I'll do that process again. By selecting multiple images and just dragging them onto just the top image there, you can see all of them get filled. And now I'm thinking I'll probably just grab that artboard and make it a bit longer. Now the beauty of this is it's just a quick time saver, just to select all your images, bring them in and they all fall into place. The same thing we can do with text as well. I'm not sure if it's provided in the resources, but if I had just a text file with all the text that I wanted, I could drag the text into the top of the text and then I'd fill all the text with whatever my text file. So again, it's just another time-saving tool to add, or I could just do it manually. just give you an example of the video tutorial that comes with this. Let's just play this section here so that when, I know a number of you don't have XD, but if you get the opportunity to get it when you get to your university or your homes, then you can work through these tutorials to help you learn the tools.
Let's say I've built out any artboard, a good deal of content, and I decide at the end of the project that I want to change the color I've been using. Rather than change instance of that color manually, I change all instances of a using the lower right side of the you'll notice the of the panel opens up. When you assets panel, there's three colors, which we're going to there's a character style and not add any symbol up until the point in this that's empty. If I scroll back to the top, there are colors that have been added. The first thing I want to show you is how you can remove those colors, because I want to start from screen. I'll come on and click that color, and hold. I'm going to click most color to select in that. I'll then right click and then delete to remove it from the app. That's get out of my project, just out of the panel. From here, I can add colors individually by clicking on the color. Let's say I want to come in and this little color pop here. Selecting the stroke white that color green. So that when I come to the color section, click on the plus sign, those colors are brought. Alternatively, if I want to go over and select every artboard, let's say I'm bring in the colors that are included in gear art. I'll click gear art and come back to the section. And if I want to change a color use across the project, come over to that swatch, click, and then you select edit. From there, I can pick a color that's being used in the design. So let's say using the eyedropper tool to this shade green, that not only swatch on the left change, but all instances of blue color here towards the right have been updated with that shade that I've seen. I can also come in and type in a hex value or shade that I will apply to the design. When I click off, the swatch up to the left, and all of the occurrences on the design canvas have been updated as well. I can always apply to the color. Now the hex value has changed. I'll do that by clicking on the swatch here. I'll give it a name. We'll just call it primary pink. Well, congratulations to the text tutorial.
So you can work through that on your own just to get an idea. But right now that I've given you a taste of Premiere XD, have a chat with the person next to you. What do you think of it? How could it potentially be used in your context? And then be prepared to share. 30 seconds to discuss that. Off you go. All right, who would like to share? Yep, over here.
I can ask the student to use it as a storyboard.
Yep.
They can develop their storyboard for the real development.
Yep.
So I think that's the best way for them to do it. Storyboard is the way.
Terrific. And that's storyboarding for what? To
For
design?
mobile application, for design any short animation. and
Yep.
so.
Cool, thank you very much. Great. Who else would like to share? Over here.
research. The student come up with some use for purpose.
No. Thank you very much. I've given you the resources to carry on so you can play with XD. If you think it's something you're going to be wanting to work with in the future, then those resources will be very helpful for you. We're going to be jumping into some Photoshop tips and tricks in a minute, but before we do, I just want to outline some of the theory as to why creativity is so important. So I'll get you to focus up here for a second, folks. You might want to take note of some of these slides here. And remember, I'm going to give you a link to all of my slides at the end of today, end of our session anyway. But today's students are immersed in digital realms. As we said earlier, when they learn something, they go straight to YouTube. When they want to know something, they'll go straight to Google. They want to produce media and not just consume it. Here's my challenge for you. Every time you set an assignment to your students, give it a creative element. Say, or give them an option of creating an app instead of doing an essay. Give them an option of a video instead of doing a poster. Always try to give them those creative options, and the more that they can do it, the better they're going to get at doing it. Formal education when they can work well with creativity tools. This is how thinking and learning across the whole curriculum, not just in IT, not just in arts, not just in media, just in the design faculty, throughout the whole university, finding more digital things. School systems and universities across the globe are revising their curricula with increasing emphasis on experiential learning, on interdisciplinary approaches, and on an array of literacies, not just the traditional ones. Now, this has been for many years. My father was a surgeon, and he taught medical students. He loved it. His favourite part of his job was teaching fourth-year medical students at the University of Melbourne. And he would come back as I was I think when he was doing that, I was a young teacher myself, and he would share what it was like to be an educator. And he was fascinated with all the education theory that I was learning as a young teacher, because he was never brought up. He was brought up in medicine and in science, and now he was a teacher without having that theory. And what happened with the medical school at the University of Melbourne is they made this big change from the tell you what you have to know to being an experiential, project-based learning approach. And that happened about 15 years ago. Big change for a very traditional university. So instead of medical students going to lots and lots of lectures, they did go to some, but they would actually go with surgeons to hospitals with patients and be learning on the job, and they'd have projects to do based on diseases that were confronting the patients at the time. And it became a much better way of learning because they were very much an experiential learning. It's amazing how many universities now actually getting their faculties to connect and talk to each other and actually run courses together. I was working at UTS, University Technology Sydney, a couple of years ago, and they were setting up a creativity degree where medical students, education students, engineering students could actually get together and do an extra degree called creativity. So they'd end up doing an engineering and creativity degree, or a medicine and creativity degree. It was really amazing, and it's become very successful because it's showing how important creativity is in an array of literature. This is what we've been about a lot. Of course, Adobe applications, literacy lessons into with an emphasis on creative problem solving through writing, through speaking, through presenting, making, and through storytelling. And that's what we're on about. And that's applicable to all areas of the curriculum. That's a bit of the theory, and I'll give you a little bit more of the theory a little bit later. But right now, I want you to jump into a Google Drive, and the Drive is this. I don't know if but Bitly, so I'll make it nice and big. .y/pshop, as in Photoshop, dash resources. Put it up on the while you're trying to type that out. bit.ly/shop, as in Photoshop. If you can type that into the address bar of a browser, it should take you straight to a Google Drive. Now that's going to disappear in about 10 seconds, so if you need to take a photo, you've got 10 seconds to take the photo. Now when you type in that address into your address bar, this is what should come up. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 photos. The first one we're going to play with is this one here called Tulana and Mia. Can you click on that photo, or double click it if you need to get it into its full resolution? And then I want you to download that photo onto the hard drive. So there's a button up here called download. And when you click on that, I'll ask you to save the photo. And then it should end up in your downloads folder. Or on a Windows machine, I think you can choose where to save it, as long as you know where it is. And in the next 30 seconds, 1 minute, I want you to open the photo just downloaded in Photoshop. So I want to see that photo opened up in Photoshop. So it should look like that in the next 30 seconds. So the person next to you, they're okay. That photo, Tulana and Mia, in Photoshop. The person next to you, okay. All right, 80% of you have got that ready to go. Let me tell you a bit about this photo. I love this photo because my daughter on the right and her friend on the left. My daughter's name is Lana, her friend is named Mia. I took this photo about 10 years ago on my very first iPhone, which is so washed out. It's even washed out on my screen. I know on the projector it's going to be washed out anyway. Not great colours. But at the time it was great. It was the best camera that we could find on a phone 10 years ago. So you'll find there are times you get a photo, you not happy with the colours and you enhance them. So I'm going to show you a very quick way to enhance the colours using artificial intelligence. And we've got our artificial intelligence engine. Did I name it yesterday? It's called Adobe Sensei. Have you heard of that? I love the name of it. In fact, I like to get to a microphone and go, Adobe Sensei. Just love the name. And when I'm working with a sound engineer who's at the back of the room, I get him to put up the reverb. I just give him the little cue, and he puts up the reverb and he goes, Adobe Sensei, 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 Sensei. It just sounds so good. So Adobe Sensei is our artificial intelligence engine. Use it to enhance the colours. What I want you to do is I want you to go up to where it says filter. Go down to this filter here called the Camera Raw filter. When you activate the Camera Raw filter, you'll get a window that looks like this. And there are a whole bunch of settings that you can play with. But unless you're actually a photographer or a Lightroom user, you may not really understand what these settings do. Let's use Adobe Sensei to put this together by clicking this button here, my favorite button in the whole wide world, because as soon as I click that, watch what happens. 3, 2, 1, bang! Much colours. Look at all the settings that have been adjusted automatically. How good? Oh, I've got a clap. That's nice. I like it. Now, if I'm not totally happy, I can readjust them. I can work them a little bit, but Adobe Sensei does a fantastic job at just putting it all together and enhancing the colours. How did you guys go? Is that working for you as well? All good? Do I need to do it again, or are we all good? Do it again? Sure. Undo. And let's go back a few steps. So the filter is called Camera Raw filter. It opens up the Camera Raw filter, and then my favorite button in the whole world is Auto. And when I click that, 3, 2, 1, bang! Blue blew up. And I've got the picture a lot better. All right. When I took this photo, I'd obviously had a very big night the night before because I was on an angle. Can you see it's not straight? So we're going to straighten this picture. And we're going to use Adobe Sensei to do the straightening for us as well. So this. Take your cursor to this tool here called the cropping tool. Grab the crop tool, and you'll notice up the top of the crop tool there is a button here called straightening. If you click the little ruler next to the word straightening, take your cursor over and then click, hold and drag and tell Adobe Sensei what the current angle is, and as soon as I let go, it's now straight. Let me do that again in case you missed it. So we are activating the crop tool, this one. We are clicking the straightening ruler. We are click and dragging a line and telling Adobe Sensei what the current angle is. And as soon as I let go, bang, it's nice and straight. But sometimes when I do that, I end up with this type of result. I get these gaps. And I could easily just crop those gaps out. Maybe I don't want to. Maybe I actually want to keep the solution without doing any cropping. So we're going to use Adobe Sensei to fill the gaps now with appropriate content. This is the content-aware fill tool. And to do that within the cropping environment, we go up to the top here and we can see a little button here called Content Aware. If we activate that button and then click the tick over here, we'll just a few seconds, and in 3, 2, 1, we have new sky, new sand, new sky, new sand, and all those gaps have been filled with extra content. Does that deserve a round of applause? Is that? Yeah, there we go. Repeat that again. I'll just undo all of, oh, let's undo right back. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my history tool and go back in history. So back to the camera raw. So they've done the camera raw. Let me do the straightening again. See my gaps? So to get rid of the gaps, I'll click this button here, Content Aware, and then click the tick. 3, 2, 1. Bang, there it is, all filled in. All right, I'm a lot happier with the picture now. It's straighter, colours, but there are two problems with the photo now. One's called Talana, the other's called Mia. I don't want the girls in the shot. There's a landscape there I want to capture without these two bratty teenagers in the way. Actually, I think they were only 10 or 12 when I took that photo, but that's okay. We're going to use the Content Aware Fill tool to actually get rid of objects in our picture. Who's used that before? Content Aware Fill to get rid of objects. So this is new for everyone. Great, good. It's a wonderful tool. First of all, let me zoom in on the two girls. I'm going to go to my zoom tool, which is this tool down here, right at the bottom of the toolbar. And I'm going to just zoom in on the two girls. Now, let's get rid of Talana first. And there's a couple of ways we can do this. What's a tool that I could use to do a quick selection of Talana? Just a rough selection, just a quick Lasso tool. Good, that's probably the best one. The third tool from the top, Lasso tool. Do a very rough selection around her. And once I've joined the dots, you can see marching ants. I have selected all around the object to get rid of. Once I've selected the object I want to get rid of, I'm going to do a right click inside the object. So I'll do a right click inside, and I've got a function here called Fill. Let's see how it goes. As soon as I click Fill, it should default to Content Aware because I've selected something, and as soon as I click OK, Talana should disappear. And she was never there. Let's see what happens. Because this is Adobe magic, I need everyone to help me. I want you to go 3, 2, 1, zap with me. You ready? Here we go. And 3, 2, 1, zap! Yes! Oh! It worked! Phew! Oh. Because sometimes it doesn't work, but it worked that time. Sometimes with little bits of Mia inside Talana. It looks terrible. Okay, you just repeat the process. Do you want me to do that again? Yeah? All right, so see if I'm going to undo that. So we've got Talana back. We've done the selection around. Do a right click inside the object. Go to Fill. And of course, it works better if you go 3, 2, 1, zap. So 3, 2,